Don't mess with me, pork chop. What day is this?
It's February 2nd. Groundhog Day.
You know, I thought it was yesterday.
Oh.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time to talk about retcons. Retcons are absolutely commonplace in comic books. They're commonplace in entertainment nowadays. I remember my first true love, Star Wars. They were retconning the story by episode number 5, right? When we get to Empire Strikes Back, we find out Darth Vader is the father of Luke Skywalker. You watch the first movie, there's absolutely no hint that Darth Vader could even possibly be Luke Skywalker's father. It's explained that Darth Vader hunted down and killed the Jedi, including Luke's father, when he betrayed him. Now, they retcon that a little bit. That clearly was not the original intent of the story. George Lucas changes that. They add a couple of lines of dialogue from Obi-Wan in the third film of the original trilogy, kind of clean that all up. You go back from the original trilogy into the sequel trilogy, or I'm sorry, the prequel trilogy. Woo! A lot of retcons. So I've been dealing with retcons since I've loved entertainment. In comic books, we get lots of retcons. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they aren't, sometimes they're necessary, sometimes they're completely superfluous. They absolutely do nothing. Right now, we're in the middle of a retcon for Nightwing. We're changing his origin to where now he has a long-lost sister that he never knew about. And we'll see how Tom Taylor and company do that. And we are currently, today, we got I'll call it the second official retcon of Tom King's Heroes in Crisis character assassination of Wally West. Now, they've addressed it 3 times, and I'm going to go over it. I'll go over Heroes in Crisis, and the 2 previous times they've addressed it, one being a complete retcon, one being more of a redemption type thing for Wally West. And then I'll talk about what the team did today. Writer Jeremy Adams and artists Fernando Pasarin and Brandon Peterson attempt to kind of undo what Tom King did here. Let's talk about what they're undoing and why it was, kind of necessary. And then I'll talk at the end of what I think about retcons, whether or not this is successful. Can you retcon in DC Comics nowadays that we have the Omniverse? Let's talk about it. So here's the original sin of Tom King. You have to remember where this is coming from. We're coming out of DC Rebirth, which was beloved by fans, seemingly reviled by DC leadership as soon as Jeff Johns is no longer the chief creative officer. Dan Didio is not a fan of legacy characters, and they appear to have offered up a sacrificial lamb to Tom King and his depressed writing style in the name of Wally West, who, funny enough, was the symbol of hope during DC Rebirth. I do not believe this was by accident. I believe that he was used in this story in this way by Tom King at the behest of Dan Didio on purpose. I don't think Tom King, he was going to destroy somebody's character. He didn't care which one it was. Dan Didio was like, I got Wally West for you. Let's kill the symbol of hope in DC Rebirth and finally put an end to this nonsense and get back into some more New 52 edgy style storytelling. And boy, is Heroes in Crisis edgy. Forever edgy. It's so edgy, the edge still hasn't come off. They're trying to take it off, but it hasn't dulled yet. And that's not because it was written well. It's not because it was shocking. It's because it's complete and utter character assassination. We've got this beautiful image right here from the impeccable Clayman, wonderfully illustrated comic book. And we see the confession that Wally West himself is the man who murdered everybody at Sanctuary. Murder might be a harsh word for the situation. You could look at it and interpret it as it was an accidental killing. But he certainly killed a lot of people. And when you read the story, and if you haven't read Heroes in Crisis, don't. Headcanon that bitch right out of there. Don't even think about it. And if you did read it, it's best to ignore it. We're in the Omniverse. Everything happened, so nothing happened. And we get into this confession, and it turns out that all these heroes, including one of his better friends, Roy Harper, who obviously was on the Titans with him, they died because Wally West felt alone in Sanctuary, because he had lost his wife and children into the Speed Force. He had attempted to go find them in Flash Wars, which was written by Joshua Williamson, and he was unsuccessful. And he went to Sanctuary to heal himself, He gets there. He finds out how lonely he is. He sees the tapes of what all the other people are going through. And he can't believe it. He runs outside because he's becoming overwhelmed with emotion, and he explodes as people come out after him trying to see what's going on. And that's how everybody dies. Because apparently the Speed Force was combustible, and if you become overwhelmed with emotions, a Speed Force user can essentially become a bomb. And that's how you kill people. And that's in Tom King's story. Worst of that, you could say that's an accident, right? Wally West was not trying to kill all these people in Tom King's story. Worst of all, he travels to the future, brings back his future self, kills him, so he can frame his death like he died there too, and then he frames Harley Quinn and Booster Gold. A hero went to the future, brought himself back to kill himself, and then framed two innocent people in Tom King's Heroes in Crisis. I wonder why people don't like Tom King's writing. God. Don't even let... If you want to see the reviews, there are reviews of almost every single issue on my channel. If you search Heroes in Crisis Tom King, you'll probably find it, or Heroes in Crisis Thinking Critical, and you can watch them all. I would suggest the last two, that's where we get into this kind of stuff. This happened in, was it Heroes in Crisis 8? And then there's also a Heroes in Crisis 9. So at the end, he's taken to jail in handcuffs by the Justice League, a disgraced hero. He's no longer a hero. He's a murderer that frames innocent people. So we get the first attempt. And now this is not a retcon. This is just two creators that absolutely love the character Wally West, respect Wally West. I believe they both worked on him. Brett Booth had certainly done the Wally West Flash stuff before. And they attempted to rehabilitate what had happened, and we get Wally West in Flash Forward, which is 6-issue miniseries. If you haven't read this one's pretty damn good. It's their attempt to redeem the character while accepting what happened in the pages of Heroes in Crisis. It's a valiant effort. Certainly, you cannot undo what Tom King had written, or at least they do not attempt to here. They merely attempt to address it and see if they can turn the hero, or Wally West, back into a hero again. And for the most part, I think they're successful. They do some very interesting things with the character as he starts traveling through the dark multiverse and saving universes. And he ends up finding his wife and his children. Is it his wife? I think he only finds his children. And then he ends up on the Mobius chair, and we see like the Dr. Manhattan version of Wally West, which was interesting. Not exactly something I would do, but I'm not a writer for DC Comics. It's what Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth did, and I loved it. It's a great series, and given the horse shit or chicken shit that they were given, they certainly did the best they could to make some delicious chicken salad out of it, and it's a nice redemptive story. So that's the first time DC Comics has attempted to address this Tom King Heroes in Crisis story, which is only a few years old. And that was with this miniseries. Next, let's talk about Flash 761. This is the second to last issue of Joshua Williamson's Flash run. I believe it's issue number 99 if you look at his totality run. I think he ended up doing 100 issues total. Obviously, Scott Williamson really didn't have anything to do with Heroes in Crisis. He did send Wally off to Sanctuary at the end of Flash War, which he wrote. I don't imagine he knew exactly what Tom King was going to do to the character. Now, his Flash book has primarily been a Barry Allen story, but it has certainly had enough Wally West in there through his time beginning on DC Rebirth. We were getting more Wally West in the Titans series. We were seeing him in a few places, but we were getting Wally West here, and he attempts to explain not the explosion and how all those people died. He attempts to explain why Wally West went to the future, brought himself back, and framed innocent people for the deaths. And we get this revelation by the Reverse Flash, who's been trying to ruin Wally and Barry's life forever. And he's been coming back in the past and doing all these things to Wally to make him do things he would never do, feel things he should have never felt. And when he was at Sanctuary, it says here at the end, I spent lifetimes making sure the Flash family found no Sanctuary. That is Reverse Flash speaking. And that is a hint at Sanctuary. You can see Wally West in the bottom right corner of this page, very sad. And he's thinking, because this thought is being put into his head by Reverse Flash, no one will believe it was an accident. You have to cover it up. So it wasn't his idea to cover up the deaths and frame Booster Gold and Harley Quinn. But also, he still did it. He's supposed to be a hero. You can have thoughts in your head. I'm sure you and I have all thought of things that maybe we would like to do or we could do. But then when you really think about it, yeah, I can't do that. That would be bad. That is not something I want to be a part of. So this gives idea that, or breath to the thing that it wasn't originally his idea, but he still went along with it. That doesn't exactly rehab the character, but this is the first retcon they did, where it wasn't originally his idea. It was Reverse Flash messing with him and trying to get him to do something bad, and he did it. Was this ultimately successful? I think a lot of people enjoyed this retcon. They appreciated the fact that Joshua Williamson would go back and try and help out a character and rehab something that shouldn't have happened to him to begin with. But ultimately, it's not really successful as a retcon because he still went along with it. Even though he had a thought that wasn't originally his, he still went along with it and he framed innocent people. Heroes don't do that. Ultimately, it doesn't excuse it. You know what I mean? It doesn't really wipe it out. He still did it. So I don't believe that one was all that successful. And that brings us to Flash Annual 2021. There have been 3 Flash annuals, and Annual 1, 2, and 3 within this current iteration run of Flash, but this one isn't Flash Annual number 4. This is just like Flash Annual 2021. Whatever. I guess it's because we have new creators on the book. As I mentioned earlier, Jeremy Adams is the writer here. In this time, we've had this story going through the Flash series since it rebooted into Infinite Frontier. Not really rebooted, since it restarted in Infinite Frontier after taking a break on Future State. And Wally West Flash wanted to retire after seeing everything that had happened to his family. He wants to be with them, and he doesn't want to be caught up in the superhero game anymore. He gets sucked into the Speed Force, and he keeps arriving at different points in time at other speedsters' bodies, and he's witnessing these surges, these big events emanating from the Speed Force. They're trying to figure out what's happening back. You know, the guys in the headphones are Barry Allen, Oliver Queen, and Mr. Terrific. And they're trying to guide him through this and trying to get him back and figure out what the hell's going on. But he's witnessing all these surges that are happening. And in this issue, this annual, which is the completion of a story in regular Flash, why this isn't just a regular Flash issue, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's more pages than normal. They didn't think they could charge, $6 for a regular issue, even if it was extra pages in the finish of this story. Neither here nor there. We get Flash arriving in the moment of Heroes in Crisis, and everybody is frozen in the sky. And there's this dome, like Speed Force dome, anomaly that's kind of off in the distance. And then the only person that is animated at the moment, besides Wally West, is Roy Harper. They get to speak together, and Roy and Wally kind of talk, and it gives Wally an opportunity to apologize and perhaps save Roy and the rest of the people that died in Sanctuary, believed to be, originally at his hands. And we find out that he is not the reason that this happened. He's not the reason that there was this big explosion and everyone died at Sanctuary. The reason is there's an anomaly in the Speed Force that is causing these surges. And the Speed Force I believe it's trying to expel this anomaly. And that's why you're having all these surges. And that was a surge from the Speed Force as it was trying to expel the anomaly. It was not actually Wally West being sad. So the good part of this retcon is if a speedster gets overly emotional or sad, they are not a walking nuclear weapon. That is a smart change. And we do ultimately find out It is a Flash villain. I won't give everything away here. It doesn't show it here on the picture that I got. But it is a Flash villain that is becoming one with the Speed Force that actually caused that. And Wally ends up bringing them back, and they take him down. I'm sorry if I spoiled the end. The heroes won, although that doesn't always happen in DC Comics nowadays. I imagine a lot of people are going to be happy with this retcon. I think it's perfectly fine. It's smart because it takes that stupid idea that all Speed Force users are walking time bombs, and why haven't they blown up more in the past? We've seen other speedsters sad. Specifically Barry Allen a lot, and certainly Wally West in the past. And we that's no longer on the table. But Wally West still, whether it was hinted at or the idea was put in his mind by Reverse Flash, he still went along with it and still framed people for the deaths that they were not responsible for, and tried to get them put in jail and stuff. So ultimately, I do say that this retcon here itself is successful. It doesn't fix everything, and I don't think that you can fix the problem of Wally framing people. So is he still a hero? I think they did enough in Flash Forward to really try and redeem the character. Obviously, they're trying to continue to redeem the character here. He hasn't decided not to retire, and he decides that he is going to continue to be a hero at the end of the book. But unfortunately, you just can't take that other stuff off the plate. It's too bad that Tom King did this. It's so messy that you really can't fully clean it up, no matter what they do. Like, you would just have to retcon Heroes in Crisis out of existence. Like, maybe Psycho Pirate had someone using Psycho Pirate had held Wally West hostage for like 3 years. And he put him through all this, and it turned out everything that happened wasn't real. Like, you could do it, but it would be really stupid. And it's unfortunate we got to this point. I think a lot of people will be happy, like, oh, it fixes everything. It really doesn't. It does explain the initial explosion. It does take the idea that Wally West is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Barry Allen's a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. The other speedsters are as well. That's off the table at least. But it doesn't fully redeem the character. It doesn't fully fix what happened. I think what Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth did initially, that is probably the only way that you can rehab the character, is to get him some redemption, acknowledge what happened, acknowledge what he did was wrong, and see if you could redeem the character. It probably won't happen until the next Crisis reboot, right? And all that stuff gets taken off the table. The other weird part about this is we are in the Omniverse, so what does this even matter? Does this really change continuity? Everything happened. So the original events, the original version happened too, right? Isn't that what DC Comics told us? Everything happened. If you're excited about this, definitely let me know in the comments section. Tell me why you think this is a really effective retcon. If you're more cynical like me and say, listen, he still framed people, let me know that too. And let me know if you're excited about what's going on with DC Comics this week. This is always my favorite week in DC because we get Batman the Detective, Joker, Batman Urban Legends until Chip Zdarsky's off, and then Justice League Last Ride. I've already read Justice League Last Ride. It's the weakest issue so far. Unfortunately, hopefully the Batman books kind of pick it up. I know other people probably are looking forward to Detective Comics, but these are my thoughts on Flash Annual 2021. A valiant effort. But here's the other problem. Okay, you know what? We're not wrapping this up. I got stuff to say. Here's the other problem. I know where this story is going. We've all seen Future State. If you read Batman, Detective Comics, and Catwoman, you all see everything's moving towards Future State, the Magistrate, right? In Batman, we've got I Am Batman coming out. Looks like Nightwing's going to tie into this. Fear State is all about Future State. If you're reading Action Comics in Superman, it's all leading to the Superman stories in Future State. If you read Teen Titans Academy, it's leading towards Teen Titans Future State. If you read Green Lantern, it's leading towards Green Lantern Future State. If you read Swamp Thing, I'm not really sure. So I know where this goes. I saw what Brandon Vietti did to Barry Allen again. He turns him even to a worse serial killer and then tries to, explain that away because he's he's possessed by one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever. But he's still a mass murderer. He still sends Barry Allen like a half second like out of time so he can watch him murder people for the rest of his life. So if this gets you excited about the future of Flash, I'm glad. And I hope you buy the comics, and I hope you enjoy them and spread the word. But the fact that I know where Flash is and we know where DC Comics is going for the most part, it doesn't fix that for me. How's that? Because I still know that in the end, even if they're fixing it here, he's still going to be a serial killer. It's written in the stars. It's written in Future State. And that's where every other comic in DC, for the most part, is going. Those are my thoughts. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you later. I hope I wasn't too cynical.